Join us in the majestic meadows of Regency, England for Pride and Prejudice. Today's episode is going to be on the 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I feel like I need to say that multiple times because I know there's a big faction of Pride and Prejudice miniseries people who are going to be very disappointed today. We're talking about the 2005 Joe Wright, Keira Knightley, Matthew Macfadyen, Tom himself, Pride and Prejudice. And today we have our first guest ever. So excited. Anna Stone is with us from Stone's Top Tens. I've been a guest on Anna's show, I think twice now, and I have a couple more upcoming for the next season. So do you want to let our audience know what your show's about and plug your upcoming season?
Sure. So my name's Anna, and my podcast is Stone's Top Tens, where I rank my favorite movies in different categories with a different co-host every week. I am just finishing up a Christmas season and then going into a musical season. If you are expecting 10 episodes per season because it is a top 10 podcast, you're going to be disappointed because I am not good at making decisions. So, for example, the musical season is slightly more than 10 episodes, like maybe 19. So,
19?
Hey, musicals are great. And
narrow it down.
This is narrowed down. Like, this is a problem. But you can listen to me and my friends as we talk about these movies and frequently get off track. And yeah, that's it.
I love that title, by the way. Such a good title. It's something about it.
Isn't it perfect? It's just like snappy to the point.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like a magazine. It sounds like super classy, super fancy.
Oh, those are definitely adjectives I use to describe myself. So, classy and fancy.
Super classy.
In my Spider-Man sweatshirt.
We're all ladies today. We're all ladies today in the Jane Austen universe, right?
Oh, yes.
So I'm just going to run through quickly a brief summary of what we're covering, just in case you weren't listening the first time. We're doing the 2005 Joe Wright directed film, adapted from the 1813 Jane Austen novel. It's about 5 sisters in rural England and their parents' journey on finding them all suitable arranged marriages. One free-spirited sister, Elizabeth, is holding out for a love match. This is the second movie version of this novel. The first was made in 1940, so this was the first version in decades. Long time that made it to movie theaters.
I didn't know that. 1940, dang.
Right? Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find out why there was such a big gap. I think it has something to do with the Jane Austen Society. They're very persnickety, so they might not have approved any other versions of the movie until this one.
Did you guys know that Dr. Seuss's wife did that? Yeah, something about like a live action was made, and it was so bad that...
Was it The Cat in the Hat?
Dr. Seuss's wife was like...
The Cat in the Hat.
Yeah.
It was definitely...
Because it is very bad.
So like...
I'm a secret Cat in the Hat defender.
No.
It's horrible, but I like it.
I really like it too.
It's kind of fun.
I think I only like it because I really watched it a lot growing up, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like Mike Myers.
Yeah, I'm not a Cat in the Hat hater here. You will not find
my episode this week was the live action How the Grinch Stole Christmas, which is the pinnacle of Dr. Seuss live action. Yeah. So that was my episode this week.
Definitely agree with you there. much better quality. Yeah, that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. I think when you and I had discussed me coming on for the Christmas season, that was like the first one I requested. It was that and Elf. I was like, please give me one of them. I need one.
Yeah,
And
this
I
one
ended
was
up doing
taken.
Elf. I love that version. So Lindsay, tell us who's in this movie.
Okay. We've got Keira Knightley as Lizzie Bennet, Matthew McFadden as Mr. Darcy, Brenda Blethyn as Mrs. Bennet, Donald Sutherland as Mr. Bennet, Rosamund Pike as Jane Bennet, Jenna Malone as Lydia Bennet, Carey Mulligan as Catherine Kitty Bennet, Tallulah Riley as Mary Bennet, Tom Hollander as Mr. Collins, and Judi Dench as Lady Catherine.
Hell yeah. She's
Judi
such a bitch in this
Dench.
movie. So what do we think the overall theme is of this movie? The first thing I wrote down was the yearning. Sweet Jesus, the yearning. And then underneath the yearning is obviously financial insecurity, womanhood, sisterhood. What do you think, Anna? What resonates with you?
I had the sisterhood part in there, and as someone who like doesn't have any biological sisters, this was always a story where I was like, oh, that'd be delightful. But the biggest one that I take away from this movie, and I think that this has changed over the many times that I have read the book and watched the movie, is growth. And I'll talk about that more later, but especially with Lizzie and Mr. Darcy.
Sisterhood for me. I think the only reason I love these type of movies is because of the sisterhood.
Yeah, we're big sister story people over here. I'm a sucker for a sister story. So, one of my sister and I's like bonding movies is Frozen. Because I didn't see it when it came out.
What?
I didn't see it. Listen, hear me out. My sister was living with me at the time. She was probably about 15, and she kept recommending Frozen to me. She's like, you gotta watch Frozen. I love this movie so much. You gotta see it. You gotta see it. I'm like, Chloe, I don't give a fuck about this movie. I'm like, my late 20s. I was like, I'm not watching Frozen. I don't care. And she's like, no, you have to watch it. I love this story so much. And when you see it, you'll understand why. And I'm like, fine. So she finally like made me watch it with her one day. And I realized why she loved it so much is because it's a sister story. And it's about the sisters being each other's true love and saving each other and not the prince. And I was like, it's like, that's my fucking girl.
That was one of mine and my husband's first dates, is that we went and saw Frozen in theaters. Because I was so excited that there was a princess who almost had the same name that I do, just pronounced differently. And Brandon fell asleep and was audibly snoring so much that the kid next to us like was staring at him. And I had to like elbow him to wake up.
That's so embarrassing for him. I hope you make fun of him about that all the time.
It is part of the reason why I'm like very selective about which movies I will take him to, because he also fell asleep during one of the Hobbit movies, and I was like, boy, these movies, I'm paying like $15 for you to nap, and that is just not gonna fly in this economy. So
but anyway, Anna, do you want to go into the finer details on this? Tell us what happened in this movie.
Sure thing. This movie follows the Bennet family during the Regency era in England. The Bennet family includes 5 sisters of varying personalities and interests. When the eligible Mr. Bingley moves into the neighborhood, Mrs. Bennet is determined that one of her daughters will ensnare him. Mr. Bingley's best friend, the pretentious Mr. Darcy, doesn't view the Bennets as suitable in-laws for Bingley and makes designs to break up the budding relationship between Bingley and Jane Bennet. In the meantime, the tenacious Elizabeth Bennet catches the eye of Mr. Darcy, but their egos and families make it difficult for them to accept their feelings.
Ooh. Okay, so the first couple of scenes when you're getting introduced to Bingley and they're setting up Bingley and Jane's like romance and you meet Darcy for the first time. Oh god, that is some cinema. That is some classic. They just set it up so well. Like you are immediately, you just know this family, you know the stakes, you know who they are, where they're going, why. I felt like this adaptation made it really easy to understand. What I've heard, I've never read it, but I've heard it's a very dense book. And I feel like the way they set up this first like 10-15 minutes of this movie, it just drops you right in and you're like, okay, I understand what's going on. And I just love the way they start this movie out.
How do you guys feel about Bingley?
Hmm. He's kind of a pushover. Yeah. Yeah.
He's a golden retriever boy,
He's very,
like straight up.
I don't really love that. He had like no backbone, I feel like. He's always just doing whatever Darcy and whatever his family, whatever anybody whoever's nearest him at the time, that's who he's listening to, pretty much. He's very easily influenced. I'm like, boy, get it together, make a decision. And I don't like that.
How do you feel about him, Lindsay?
I think I was a little irritated, especially with him having Jane and not putting in more effort. I don't know.
Thank
Like,
you.
I think just really childish.
He almost fumbled her.
Yeah. Like, are you kidding me?
He almost fumbled Rosamund Pike. How
Mhm.
embarrassing. That's embarrassing. So what were some other highlights for you, Lindsay? Just like overall impressions.
I have something embarrassing to admit.
Ooh, okay.
This
Spill
was
it.
the first full watch of Pride and Prejudice. And for the longest time, I don't know if either of you have seen this version, but there's like a parody. It's called Austen Land.
Lindsay.
Have either of you seen that?
I don't
No.
know.
And
No,
it stars Carrie Russell. So no one knows about that.
Honey, no.
For the longest time, I thought that's what Pride and Prejudice was.
Oh no.
And no.
I loved it. It's because it's like it's a parody, but it's so good. Not necessarily a parody, but it's kind of like this girl goes to this like dream fantasy land of the like how the movie is, and you get to like play a character, and I loved that.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's a really good movie, honestly. But now getting to watch Pride and Prejudice, I loved it. I loved the wardrobe so much. And I know I read about like how they would get into like the makeup and how like effortlessly beautiful all the women would look with like nothing on. I don't know.
Oh my god, I love the costumes. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna talk about that later, but the costumes were incredible, and I thought the casting was so perfect because they all look like sisters, and all of their costumes complement each other the same way that like Greta Gerwig's Little Women, their costumes all play off of each other and coordinate. I love that.
The costuming is amazing.
And I know there was some controversy about that, right, Anna? Because they changed the time period from the book.
That I don't know.
Did you know about
because
this?
I in all honesty, in the book, because this is one of my favorite books, I reread this book probably every couple of years. And they don't go into great detail about the outfits or what they are wearing or anything like that. So that's not something that like I would pick up on. But it's a possibility. I believe you if you say it.
Yeah. Oh, I went into a rabbit hole on this one. I did a lot of like random reads. I'll be sure to drop it in the show notes because I was in my like research era on this one because I just wanted to look up the cast so I could copy and paste it into the doc. And then like 2 hours later, I'm like, did you know? So I have a lot of fun facts about this movie. One of them, off the top of my head, Bingley and Jane were exes in real life.
What?
They dated
Like before the
this movie,
filming?
and yes, they were broken up at the time and had to play like
Oh my
romantic.
gosh.
Yeah, it was
Yikes.
super. Ugh, yikes. Yeah. So, I went
Truly,
deep.
anyone fumbling Jane, but also fumbling Rosamund Pike?
Legendary crash out.
Wow.
Terrible choice.
Pack it up, man. Pack it up. Another thing overall that stood out to me, I am a huge fan of enemies to lovers, and I know that's such a cliche. I don't care. I eat it up every fucking time. 10 Things I Hate About You is one of my favorite movies. I love it. I love when people are like mean to each other and then like realize, wow, it's kind of hot. I want to sleep with you. That's my favorite thing.
I really like enemies to lovers, but I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I do not like Mr. Darcy.
Ooh, you didn't turn around on him ever though?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna get you throughout this episode.
Okay, I'm very open to that, and it's not that I like anyone else more than Mr. Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
If I like anyone, it'll be Mr. Darcy, but it's not right now.
Do you think he's just like too rude? Like,
I think I just need to hear more perspectives on him.
Okay,
I got you.
Okay.
One thing that I love about this movie that I feel like is not always like acknowledged is the fact that it's incredibly funny. I was watching this with my mom, and I think part of why, like, because the accents can go a little fast, and it is, that Regency era language. So I think it takes a few times to really stick how funny this movie is. But especially like Lady Catherine de Bourgh, she is ruthless, and everything she says when she's like, oh yeah, I would be such an accomplished musician if only I had tried. Like, excuse me, what?
She's so savage. She is, you're right. The ruthless is exactly how I would describe her. This bitch is lethal with her tongue. She just be saying anything. She does not care.
Oh my gosh. She's so funny. And like part of it too is that I have like inside jokes with my friends about some of these things, but there's so much humor in this movie that it just gets me every time.
Yeah, definitely on a second watch, I was able to pick up on the humor more. I think the first time I was just so focused on the beauty of the imagery and like the sweeping meadows and the lush greens of it all and the costumes and the romance that the comedy kind of like it just passed over my head a little bit. But this second time, oh my god, I was eating it up. I was like, ooh, it's so juicy. Like it is a very funny adaptation, I think. What was I gonna say? Oh my god, we've gone this far into the pod and we haven't talked about the hand flex.
The hand flex.
The hand flex. Oh my god. One of the most important things in the world to me personally.
He like just no fuss, no muss, helps her into the carriage, and then just that shot of it like by his side. Perfection.
Improv'd.
No.
That was improv?
Yes, it was. I told you, bitches, I went in on this movie. That wasn't even in the script. That was that was improv'd by Matthew McFadden.
What if it wasn't improv and it was just his like natural reaction?
Well, the cameraman picked up on it and they put it in the movie.
I almost like that better.
Yeah, what if they were like, "Oh, that was such a good improv," and he was like, "Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right."
Oh my god, not the conspiracy theory about the hand flex, Lindsay. I approve.
Yeah, because I wonder.
It very well could be, but there was a great interview on Letterboxd about it, and he was like, "Yeah, that wasn't in the script. I just like did that." I was like, "Oh, the
I mean,
hand
that's
flex
a
was
real
improv."
reaction to like Keira Knightley. I mean, she's beautiful.
Oh my god, can we talk about it? Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley is one of the most beautiful people in the world.
Stunning. The makeup, the way they do her makeup in this movie, I know Lindsay, you had mentioned how they talked about like to try and make it look like it was not, a ton of effort, that it wasn't modern makeup. The like subtle shadowing under her eyes, she just looks amazing.
They only used like one product and did like put some on the cheeks, put some on the lips, and then like that's it.
Wow.
Probably. It sounds like it could be.
And I
If
think like
only.
Aquaphor and Vaseline
Vaseline for the
like
dewy like
dewiness.
glow.
Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't. That's you know what? I'm gonna look into that. I think you're probably right. I
Mhm.
know another like makeup artist trick is glycerin to give you that dewy, shiny look.
I only know that as the song by Bush.
Glycerine.
Yes.
That's how I thought you were supposed to say it for years, Anna. Years. So we picked this movie because it's gorgeous, it's timeless, it screams girl's girl to me. Whenever I meet a girl and she says this is one of her favorite movies, I know A, she's a girl's girl, B, she's romantic, and C, she probably has like a fire wardrobe. I feel like there's just something about this movie that gives like girl's girl aura, like big lover girl energy. And also, it's the 20th anniversary this year.
20th
20
anniversary.
20th anniversary. Oh, you're still coming to grips with what I just said. Yeah. 20
Yeah.
years.
I don't
Cuz
appreciate
it's
that.
it's 2025, honey. I know. I
That's
know.
crazy.
20th anniversary. Here we are. So yeah, I've only seen this movie twice. I saw it for the first time I think right before I had spoken to you, Anna. I just watched it because of memes pretty much. Um so it was like the hand flex and the all the memes about like I'm 27, I have no prospects, like, and I was like, what is this movie? I need to lock in. So I fell in love with it instantly though. And this was around the time that I had watched the 2019 Gerwig Little Women as well.
Oh,
So I was like primed for this type of it was like a slam dunk for me. I was in the mood for this stuff already. I'd just fallen in love with Little Women or re-fallen in love with it, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna sit down and finally watch the '05 Pride and Prejudice this year. I need to see what all the memes are about, what everyone's going on about. And you know what? They were fucking right. This is a banger. This is every time I watch it, I like it more and more.
I think I might watch it again after we finish up here.
Hell yeah.
'Cause
Hell yeah.
I support
I
that.
need to connect some dots.
We're on board.
I support that decision.
So what is your relationship to this film, Anna?
So this is gonna reveal some really nerdy Anna Stone lore here.
Ooh.
I was on the language arts team in high school, which is a thing that
Of
is
course you were.
definitely cool. And my junior year we had to read this book, and I was really struggling with it because it is very the phrasing is kind of different. They talk about taking a turn around the room is like my number one example where I was like, I don't know what that means. So normally I am a staunch advocate for reading the book before seeing the movie. I have turned around when it comes to the classics because I feel like sometimes it just helps you to interpret it a little bit better. So I watched this movie and I was in love with it. And so then when I read the book, I was like, oh yes, taking a turn around the room. That means walking around the room with someone. And it just made more sense. And I just fell in love with this movie. And it became, during COVID, it kind of became more of a thing because it was on Netflix. So it was my comfort movie during COVID. I probably watched it like every other week. And
Oh my
one of
God.
my friends and I would laugh about it, about like the boiled potatoes, and I actually like crocheted her a potato because she was traveling the world, so she took this like crocheted potato with her. And I also have an anxiety
That's
disorder,
big
so
Amelie
like
energy.
so like every time Mrs. Bennet's like, my poor nerves, it's like that's me. Every time someone's like, you should go to this party, and I'm like, my nerves, I can't go to a party. So it's just
Not you relating to Miss Bennet.
listen, my
I
poor
need to start
nerves are
using
real.
that.
No, Lindsay, you don't need any more ideas.
And then when like
I
Mr.
need
Bennett,
every single
she's
idea.
like, you forget about my nerves, and he's like, they've been my constant companion these last 20 years. Like, that's my husband. He's like, I know. He's like, I know you're anxious. It's okay. Hold my hand. Like,
Your
so-
nerves.
It's just, this movie is
Yeah.
beautiful, and I love the story.
Lindsay's also a nervous girl.
Hey,
I
what's
love
up?
good excuses for needing to leave.
I do instead of an Irish goodbye, I do an Irish hello where I just don't go to the party.
Love an Irish goodbye.
I usually
Marquita
tell
can
one
let you
person.
know, but
Yeah.
that is the.
I'm like, bitch, did you leave? We'll be like in the middle of dinner somewhere. I'm like, she's gone.
I usually tell one person. It's usually not my husband, and all of a sudden he'll be like, "Did Anna? Is she gone?" And someone will be like, "Yes." And it's just like, okay.
Mhm. Oh my God.
I usually like to at least let the host know that I'm leaving.
Mhm.
The host is the one person, but after that, no one else needs to know.
Okay, but
My
the problem with the
nerves.
host is that then you get, maybe not because you guys are on the coast, but in the Midwest, we have what's known as the Midwest goodbye, which takes like another 30, 40 minutes where you're like, oh, I gotta go. And then and then you just keep talking. So like, you gotta pick
No.
someone
Mm-mm.
who's not gonna Midwest goodbye you, and you can just be like, I'm leaving. Make sure Brandon knows at some point.
You know, I have adopted a little bit of a Southern goodbye.
What is
since
a Southern goodbye?
What is that?
It's like just slowly, it's like slowly moving towards the door, but you're still talking and still talking, like, and then you start over again. You see Kate and I do it all the time. We'll be like, all right, I gotta go, and then we'll stand up and go to another room and keep talking. All right, I gotta go, and then we'll go to the kitchen and keep talking. All right, I'm leaving now, and then we'll go out in the driveway and talk some.
That's
more.
that's
So,
very much like
I
a
do-
Midwest goodbye. You just gotta throw an ope or two. in
Okay,
there.
gotcha. Yeah. Ope. See, we
No.
don't say ope. We go, all right now.
All right.
All right now. But no, the New York goodbye is just all right, see ya. Go away. I don't even know if there is. What is the New York goodbye? Fuck off. I don't know. Like,
I was gonna say, is it the middle finger as you walk away? I don't know. I've never been.
basically, yeah. I feel like that's the closest we come to like the New York goodbye. I'll have to ask my sister what she would consider. I feel like I'm losing my New Yorkness the longer I'm down here. So I think because it was on Netflix during the pandemic, I think maybe that's when the memes really, really started picking up for me. I think I was seeing this movie all over Twitter and TikTok when I first joined during the pandemic. Maybe that's what subconsciously planted the seed there for me to want to sit down and watch this movie for the first time last year. So on my rewatch, the second time I watched this movie, the lack of autonomy really stuck out to me. All of the sisters and the mother, really, all of the women in the story, their whole existence centers around men. and in different forms, finding one, keeping one, spending one's money. Charlotte said not all of us can afford to be romantic. There's a lot of themes of social graces and social expectations within this movie. And I feel like even though it was written in the early 1800s, I feel like that's still so prevalent nowadays, that kind of economic insecurity of womanhood and the social kind of expectation of women. Did either of you have any thoughts on that?
I really liked how the narrative was about this kind of unhinged family that, like, with the mom being who she is. I don't know, I just loved that too was centered.
Yeah, like how they're so desperate, like
Yeah.
social climb.
Yeah.
I think it's more than just social climbing, because Mrs. Bennet is primarily worried because when Mr. Bennet dies, none of the girls can inherit the house. It goes to a cousin. So while it comes off as she's like working so hard to just like get her girls paired up, and she talks a lot about Mr. Bingley's money in a very, gauche way, it's because she knows that if Mr. Bennet dies, when Mr. Bennet dies, they are going to be without. And it's trying to secure their safety and their futures. And it comes off incredibly tacky, but that's her job.
That's true. Aww.
Yeah, Mrs. Bennet is extremely clever.
When she makes Jane go out in the rain.
Yo, to get sick so she has to stay at the guy's house longer? I was like, that is some Kris Jenner level fuckery right there. She is like the 1800s Kris Jenner. This lady is working. She is working. She is managing these girls. She is getting them paired off with whoever is the best boo that'll get them the most notoriety. I see you. I see you. Are the Bennets the Regency Kardashians? Yo, she was diabolical for that. She's like, it'll be fine. Just go on this horse. Oh my god, you're sick? Wow. Yeah. I was getting big Kris Jenner vibes from this lady.
Super funny.
Who was also very cunning. So piggybacking off of that, I love how I just love the language of the time and all the different ways in which people were calling the Bennets broke. They call them humble, they call them modest. Oh, they're very strange. Mr. Darcy is like, you're unsuitable. There's all these different like code words for saying like y'all bitches are broke and tacky.
While they're living in that
And
gorgeous
I love it.
estate? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Humble, modest,
broke. Like,
so what else stuck out to you? I mean, I know you've spent a lot of time with this movie, Anna. So what were some
that's
other
a polite
like
way to
themes?
say that.
I know you've spent a lot of time with this movie. I'm channeling my inner Catherine.
Yes. I talked a lot about growth, and both Darcy and Lizzie at the beginning are so opposed to each other, and they are both so convinced that they are the one that is right, that they are the one who is being wronged by the other person, and then they both end up getting humbled. And part of it is that when Darcy hears Lizzie's reaction to his first proposal, which is so rude, by the way, here are all the things that are wrong with you, and against my better judgment, I still want to marry you.
The worst proposal.
So rude.
The fucking worst. May that love never find me, bitch.
But then, she gives him that advice when they're at Rosings Park about the fact that, like, because he's like, I'm not comfortable in social situations. Like, I didn't feel comfortable just asking anybody to dance. And she's like, well, you could practice. That would be like the best choice for you is to practice. And then Lizzie gets humbled when Darcy explains his viewpoint on what was going on with Jane and Bingley, and the fact that he thought that Jane didn't actually have any feelings for Bingley and that it was all kind of like contrived. And then also when he explains what actually happened with Mr. Wickham, because part of like why she is so high and mighty against him is because she thinks that he did this terrible thing to Wickham. But like when she finds out what actually happened with Mr. Wickham, and she, you know, there's all of the fallout with Lydia and Mr. Wickham. What I mean by growth is that they both take these instances and instead of like digging in deeper, which I feel is, you know, what modern people do, is like someone will be like, hey, what you're doing isn't great.
Double down.
And people just like, yes, they double down on it. They improve themselves. You look at Darcy's second proposal where he's so conscientious of her and he's like, listen, if you don't want me, I will stop. But I have this shrivel of hope because of how you talk to my aunt. And if you are interested, I am all yours. And, you know, this difference there. And then her learning that, like, because at the beginning, you know, she's like, men are trash and they are the worst. And she like is saying like, anything that comes to her mind, it comes out of her mouth. And then she learns Darcy's true character.
I love how sassy she is.
I do enjoy how sassy she is. But like she hones it where she's like, okay, I totally misunderstood this person and I'm not going to double down or I'm not going to, you know, stand my ground on how I feel about him. I'm going to understand that he's a better person than I thought.
Right. And she was like mature enough to in that moment recognize like, oh, I'm wrong, I was wrong. And then when her sisters or her parents or other people in her life bring Darcy up to her after she has that realization, she's big enough. Like I love Elizabeth's character. She has strong morality. When people are talking smack about Darcy or being like, oh, I know you hate him, this, that, and the third, she's like, actually, I was wrong.
Yes.
I misunderstood him, and I have new information that has changed my viewpoint on him, and I'm big enough to admit it. I was wrong, and I didn't have him assessed correctly. And turns out he's doing a lot to, you know, keep our family intact, and I just didn't know that.
So, Lindsay, does that convince you at all?
Yeah, Lindsay.
Like, so the scene where Lizzie catches him talking about her when he calls her barely tolerable, like that.
Yeah.
That was so unnecessary. Like, I don't know. I think maybe that's what threw me off of him. Like, you don't even know her.
Yeah, that was their first interaction, and he's like, ugh, get this bitch away from me.
Like, so obviously coming from a...
But things change, Lindsay.
That's what I mean about the growth, though. This is like before he learns.
True. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just holding him accountable.
Yeah.
Because that was so... I don't know.
It was so rude.
It was coming from such a...
It was very rude.
It was rude. And it would... Obviously, she's this, like, extremely beautiful person who is much cooler than him. So he's automatically like, no, she's not tolerable. I don't know.
I love when he says he likes women who read and then she instantly closes her book.
Oh my god, she was sick of him. She was like, ugh. I love that scene. You're talking about the parlor scene, right? Where they're all...
Yeah.
When she takes the walk about the room with... Yeah. Ugh. I love that scene. It's so... Actually, that leads me right into my next... Yeah. So we're going to talk about standout scenes now, and that was my number one, was Lizzie's first visit to the Bingley estate. The sassy banter, the way she snaps the book shut when he's like, I like someone well-read, the way she, like, jabs at him in front of company and, like, goes out of her way to kind of make him look fucking stupid. Oh, I love that shit.
I think because he is stupid.
Girl,
Lindsay!
No.
You are such a hater.
I am a hater. I am a Mr. Darcy hater.
Wow.
I'm gonna watch
Oh
it.
my
I'm gonna watch
god.
it again though.
Not a Mr. Darcy hater. You know what? This is the type of energy I expect from me.
I'm gonna write you a 5-paragraph essay
What can we
explaining why Mr. Darcy's where it's at.
No, I think I am coming from it as the same as Lizzie, thinking that all men are trash. Because I mean,
Valid.
out of all of them, I like Mr. Darcy, but critiquing Mr. Darcy himself, I have a lot to say.
Ooh.
Did we talk about the fact that Caroline Bingley is Beth Dutton from Yellowstone?
Yo, we didn't. We didn't actually. I Googled her after I watched it the second time because she looked like the wife from True Detective season 2, and she is. And I realized that she was British, and then I was like, wait, is that the same chick who plays Beth Dutton?
True Detective season 2.
That's also her. So I wasn't putting it together that was all the same person. I was like, yo, Yellowstone, True Detective, and Pride and Prejudice, that's all the same actress. I was like, she's fucking British? I got Idris Elba again?
You can always tell by her lips. She has very distinct lips.
Yes, that's what it was. It was the lips and it was that like beautiful red hair. I was like, wait, I know that face. I've seen her before. Who is this? And I immediately was like, yeah, it took me down a rabbit hole. Yes, that is Beth Dutton from Yellowstone.
Oh, I'm glad you bring her up because I wanted to talk about her.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tension between her and Lizzie.
Yeah.
And
very nice nasty.
Yeah. I think so much of it comes from like her not getting to experience the sisterhood that Lizzie had.
So in the book, she has a sister. In the book, Caroline and Mr. Bingley have a sister who is married. But it's like she wants Mr. Darcy. She hopes that her brother will marry Georgiana and then she'll marry Darcy. She's just so mean.
Oh my god. I feel like I was not picking up on the fact that she wanted Mr. Darcy at all. I thought she was just out to get Elizabeth. She wanted her mans.
I think it's really interesting that that's the vibe you get from the movie, Lindsay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Like, why did you think that?
I think just from like the few scenes they are together, like how she's kind of always peering against her shoulder or over her shoulder. But I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense if she's secretly wanting Mr. Darcy.
She
I like
is
that you
very
thought it was
like
a sister
catty.
thing, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, or just like
not a girl's girl.
Yeah, like her treating Lizzie like that. Because I don't know, because she doesn't like have the experience of the sisterhood that Lizzie has.
Mm-hmm.
Aww. See? Sisters. I gotta look at that again because both of y'all are kind of blowing my mind because I wasn't thinking about her lack of sisterhood within the story. And I also wasn't seeing that she was trying to get Mr. Darcy either. I was just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too gay for this. I thought she was like kind of not flirting with Elizabeth, but kind of like
I
sizing
thought that
her
too
up
a little.
Okay.
I thought maybe I wasn't sure if there was like
it was homoerotic
sexual tension between the two of them, or was it just like I don't know, Caroline just being weird.
It was sus. I was like, are you trying to like what are you trying to get into? Because like if a girl is a little mean to me like that, I'm like, do you I'm like, do you want to kiss me?
There was part of it was like where I was like, what if Lizzie is secretly lesbian and this whole thing is about her and Caroline?
Thank you.
I need you to rewrite that.
I think.
Like, can you write that for me?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
That'll have to be more than 5 paragraphs, though.
Yes. I'm going to need just slightly more than 5 paragraphs.
That would be some really spicy fanfic. Wow. I bet you it's out there. It's got to be out there.
Yeah, it's got to be.
If I find some really good Lizzie and Caroline fanfic, I will link it in the show notes. So for the culture, for
when they're taking that turn around the room, and Caroline's very much doing it so that she's doing it so that Darcy can see how pretty she looks when she's walking, whatever. And she asks him to join them, and he's like, either you're doing this to show me your figure, or you're doing this because you have something to talk about, but that doesn't involve me. And Caroline is like, oh, how should we punish him? And Lizzie's like, don't say anything to him. That's what's going to make him the maddest. And she immediately starts talking to him again. She can't help it.
She can't. You're right. I think I'm just reading it. I'm just reading it slightly more homoerotic than it actually is. But again, I think that's just me projecting.
I'm here for it.
That's me telling on myself. Hey, listen, I love enemies to lovers, especially if it's same sex.
I'll take it all.
The gayer, the better.
Yeah, we could go into a whole conspiracy about it.
Yo. Hey, you write the fanfic, I'll publish it.
I'll read it.
Hell yeah. Look at that. Our first reader. Dearest gentle reader. So another scene that really stuck out to me was Elizabeth's first dance with Darcy. Woo! Oh my god, you want to talk tension? Oh my god, that shit had me dizzy. My face was red when I was watching them just jab at each other, but it's in that hot way, She calls him unsociable and taciturn. I was like, whoa! Woo! And then the crowd, while they're dancing, Joe Wright does this in-camera trick that I love. They actually just did it on the season finale of Industry as well, where two people are in a big dining room, ballroom together, and they look at each other, and then everybody else in the room disappears.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was beautiful.
Whew. Breathtaking. I love that physical cue of showing what someone's feeling internally. Oh my god, chef's kiss, just mwah. The chemistry is crazy. Crazy in that scene. Woo! What about you, Anna?
I have that scene too, the whole Bingley ball, because she has that awkward dance with Mr. Collins because, Jane isn't available, so he moves on to the next sister.
I hate Mr. Collins.
That was crazy.
He is so gross. I hate him. Oh my god.
He's the worst.
Not Mr. Potatoes.
Have such excellent boiled potatoes. It's been years since I've had such an exemplary vegetable.
That man is a walking, talking ick.
He's the worst.
I did like how they, I guess, transitioned his character once he was married. There was a shift.
Yeah, then he just became normal married dude. He was fine. He ended up being chill, but yeah, when he was thirsty and going after both the sisters and their first cousins or whatever, I was like, you gotta relax.
It's really funny because they in the book they talk about how Charlotte gets her own part of the house when she marries Mr. Collins because then she doesn't have to deal with him. So she's like, this is my part of the house.
That's so funny.
But back to the Bingley ball, I love this scene because it shows all of the Bennets at their worst, because
oh my god,
you have Mary who's trying to sing and play the piano and nobody wants to hear it.
The goddamn piano.
And then you have Mr. Bennet, who's being just like a little too lenient. You have Mrs. Bennet, who's drunk and talking about how rich Jane is going to be when she marries Bingley. You have Kitty and Lydia, who are
Tacky.
just drunk and giggly. And it's just this perfect encapsulation of like, Lizzie can look back at that moment and be like, this is what Darcy's talking about when he's talking about like my family being unsuitable.
Yeah.
It's this display
Yeah.
that is making him think that.
They were all, you're right, at their absolute worst. The secondhand embarrassment was crazy during that scene. I was like, y'all, oh my God. Oh, just anytime any of them opened their mouths, I was like, don't stop, please. Just, oh, it was giving me a headache. Like, and when she started screaming and crying over the piano, I was like, Mary, go somewhere.
Yes.
Stop.
It's so bad.
It's like,
yeah.
you gotta stop. This is too much. Oh, and their mother being like, money, and property, and this person and that person, and bank accounts. And I was like, girl.
Yeah. It's not a good look.
Have some couth.
I do want to shout out when Charlotte tells Lizzie that she's engaged to Mr. Collins, because I think this scene is so wonderfully shot. It's Lizzie on the swing and she's spinning, and then Charlotte comes to tell her she's engaged to Mr. Collins, and she stops, and then you get the what has now become like a meme, which is the I'm 27.
Iconic. That's the meme. That's one of the memes I saw.
I've got no money and no prospects, and I'm already a burden to my parents, and I'm scared. Like,
yo, I saw someone put that on. That's a very popular 27th birthday cake.
Yes. But then you get the transition of like Lizzie spinning, and you can see them like going through time, like the time is passing. And I just think it's a really gorgeous way to show that.
The passage of time and the way they show her kind of like being like down in the dumps and like in her feelings about Darcy and how much time is going by. It reminded me of the scene in Twilight. New Moon.
Yes. Listen, my depressed teenage self lived for that scene. Okay.
I was like, bitch, you have been in this chair for 4 fucking months. Please get up. Stand up.
No. Depressed teenage Anna was like, let me comb my dyed black hair in front of my face and turn on some My Chemical Romance. I feel it. Like,
there's a possibility. Oh my God, we're definitely gonna do the Twilight series. I think we should just do one big episode. Yeah, we should just do it as one big episode, but we got to get into it. This is gonna blow your mind. I didn't see any of those movies until a year and a half ago.
I stood in line
I was 35
outside
when I watched those
for those movies.
No way.
Yep, I skipped.
Did you see them all in theaters?
Obviously. I also read the books the day they came out.
Oh wow. See, I was not a part of that life. I was not a twihard, but I feel like it just really grew on me. It grew on me. I was like, this shit is bad, but it's good.
It's ungrown.
Oh no. It's withered.
It's regressed.
It's become not the regression.
Receding, resurging.
Oh my God. Yikes. But yeah, I support teenage Bella just sitting in a chair for 4 months, losing her mind.
The next one that I had was when Lizzie and her aunt and uncle are, traveling the country, and they're very close to Pemberley.
Mhm.
And so they decide to go visit. At first, she's like, I don't want to go, because at this point, she's already refused his
Please.
proposal and had the whole humiliation and all of that. But her aunt and uncle are like, come on, these rich men are never home, and we can go. And I love when she pulls up, because you can see in her face that she's kind of like, I
Oof.
could have been the lady of this house and all this land and all this
Yeah.
stuff. Like, this
You
could have
could
been
see
mine.
she's like, "Oh, I fumbled."
But then, and
She's like, "Oh, I fucked up."
the first couple times that I saw this or I read this, it was like, oh, well, how materialistic that this is what changes her mind about him. But the reality is that she sees in his possessions, in his home, in especially how his staff talks about him, that she really has his character all wrong. And then, she sees him with his sister,
Yeah.
and it
That
shows
melted
her
me.
that this is like her image of who he was very much not who he is. And I love that imagery. They run into each other on the balcony, and it's so awkward. Like, oh my god, can you imagine that you refuse someone's
Whew.
proposal and then they catch you in their house?
In their
Like,
house, unannounced, peeking at him through a doorway, bitch.
I love that scene. That was a great scene.
Yes, I think
oh,
that's probably one of my favorite. Ooh, it is so tense and so just like you just want them to reconcile by this point, like so badly. You're like, oh my god, it's so painful. And as an audience member the first time and not reading the book, I didn't know he was home either. So when you see him and hear him, I was like, oh, I did the same thing Elizabeth did. I was like, oh,
well, and like,
I guessed.
I love it because you can tell both of them are like past their animosities, but they're both still kind of holding on to that pride a little bit. Like, they don't feel comfortable apologizing to one another sincerely, but they're definitely feeling it,
Not yet.
and they're just not there yet. And I really want to shout out
Right.
everything with Lady Catherine de Bourgh. She is hilarious when she goes to
An
the
icon.
Bennet residence, and she's like, are you engaged to my nephew? And she's like, are the shades of Pemberley to be thus polluted? Like, what an insult. Are the shades of Pemberley to
Ooh,
be
that
thus
bitch is foul.
polluted?
She is foul. She's so fucking rude. Oh, I love it.
She's like, your garden is very small.
The first thing she says is like an insult.
Are these all of the rest of your offspring, I presume? Like, and the fact
Bitch,
that
not the offspring.
That's what tips off Darcy to the fact that he still has a shot. Like, the fact that Lizzie didn't outright say, I will never marry him. Like,
No, she was like, and what if I was? What are you gonna do about it, bitch?
Lady Catherine
What
dug
of it?
her own grave.
Yeah, she basically ended up pushing them back together with that little
Mhm.
stunt. I don't know what she was thinking there, but it proves Lizzie's character, how she stood right toe to toe with her, and she was like, I don't care how much money you have, how many titles you have, what your estate is, who you decide marries who. You don't decide what I do and who I marry, and you're not shit to me, so get out of my house. Oh, I love it. I cheered. I was like, hell yeah, you tell her. And what's one of your favorite scenes, Lindsay?
The very end.
Oh my god,
scene.
yes!
I loved how it just
so romantic.
slowly transitioned into like the cover picture, because I didn't know like what scene it was from, and then it was at the very end. I was like, oh my god, it's complete. Yeah, that was my favorite scene.
I have a fun fact about that ending. It wasn't in the British version of the movie originally. That was added on for the American version. Yeah, it's
the
a
scene at
whole
Pemberley?
drama. The very final kiss at Pemberley, yeah, when he does the Mrs. Darcy whatever thing with her.
I loved that part. Oh,
British
my
people
God.
What the fuck is wrong with you? You almost took that away from us. You almost took away the iconic Mrs. Darcy, Mrs. Darcy, Mrs. Darcy. Are you crazy? People complain. The Jane Austen Society. All right, maybe now I can get into my rant. The Jane Austen Society had such a fucking problem with that ending because it isn't in the book, I guess. And they were flipping out about, you know, the authenticity of blah, 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 and such. And in the book, they don't kiss and don't do this and don't do that. And they tried to get it taken out, but they only took it out of the British version because we don't give a fuck about the Jane Austen Society in America. This is the this this is Land of the Eagles, baby. So
we're Americans. We need to be hit over the head with how it happens.
We already had this war. Y'all lost. So you're not gonna come over here and tell us what to do. So the American version had that ending in it. The British theatrical version did not. And so many people were like, wait, what the fuck? Like, why aren't we getting this romantic ass ending that's in the American version? They had to recut the movie, I think like 6 weeks after it was released, and put the American ending in the British ending, because it wasn't in there. And I think it was because of the Jane Austen Society. They had such a problem with it. They were like, take this out. No. And the American student. Literally. What do you mean?
Who's
That's one of the best
this
scenes.
society?
Like you said, Lindsay.
Like, who runs this society?
I will write her I will write that bitch a sternly worded letter right now, because how dare you? 20 years later, I'm still fucking pissed. You almost took away something so special.
So
let me see if I can find. Oh, it's the best.
That scene might actually be what changes me on Mr. Darcy if I watch it again.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. He's so romantic. Yeah, I just had to get that rant out. Like, you prude ass weirdos could never be us. So what were some of your favorite performances in the movie? I know we all picked different actors and characters to give everyone a chance to shine. Did you want to go first, Lindsay?
Yeah, mine will always be Rosamund Pike. I am very biased in that because I love everything that she's in.
Yeah.
She's the only reason I like Saltburn.
Yeah, literally. She's the best part of that movie by far.
I haven't seen that.
I think her role... Oh, yeah. I don't know if I would say...
We're Saltburn haters here.
Oh,
no. But I love Rosamund Pike. I think she... For this movie, she fits so well, but she's so beautiful. And whenever she's on the screen, I truly can't look at anybody else.
I know. Oh, she's got such a classic face. Mm-hmm. She's just like a really natural beauty. Yeah. Her and Keira, just really the whole cast. They're all beautiful girls, but yeah, she is striking in this movie. She's so young too. Yeah. It's such a different side to her compared to, you know, Gone Girl and some of her later work. She's so just rosy cheeked and romantic and shy and soft, and oh my god, she's so great in this movie. Jane's like a really good character. She's not in like a lot of scenes, but she has a lot of impact in the scenes that she's in. I think that's a great pick. Some of my favorite performances were Matthew Macfadyen as Mr. Darcy. I just think is like one of the all-time like grumpy men that I'm attracted to. He just did so much for the culture. Not even just the hand flex, but he brought such a smolder to the role. You know, he made Mr. Darcy like just much more, I think, passionate and like, to me, more attractive than Colin Firth. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm not a big Colin Firth person already. I don't see how he could bring what Matthew did to that role. You can just feel like how badly he wants to make it work, you know what I mean? But it still seems effortless. I think this is one of his first big movies, if not his first movie. Speaking of which, this was
What is about Colin Firth? Is there a
He plays Mr. Darcy in
the
like
other
the
version,
miniseries.
Oh, I really like Colin Firth.
Oh, do you? Ooh, yeah. Kate and I are pretty anti Colin Firth. I don't know. There's something about him just creeps me out a little bit.
I like him in Mamma Mia.
Oh yeah, yeah. I really like him.
Speaking of Saltburn, Carrie Mulligan, is also in Saltburn. And she had to audition for this movie 3 times. This is her first movie.
I didn't
That I
even piece
believe.
it together that this was her
Mhm.
until I saw it on the doc.
She was a baby.
Yeah, she's so young. Like when I saw her in the movie, I was like, she looks so familiar, but I can't place her. But it was just because she was so young.
Yep.
All the girls turned out like to be bigger stars because Jenna Malone was also in The
Huge.
Hunger Games. And then Tallulah,
Yep.
I don't know what her last name is. She was in one of my favorite movies, Pirate Radio. But isn't she married to
Oh my
the guy
God.
from Game of Thrones? Thomas something.
She is. She is. Oh my God, that's right. She is married to you're talking about
He was in Love
the blonde
Actually.
one.
Jojen Reed.
Yes. He
plays
plays
Jojen.
Colin Firth's son in
Yes.
Love Actually.
Oh.
No, not Colin Firth. He plays Liam Neeson's son. I just did that movie. That's why I know.
Sorry. Yep. You're right. Liam Neeson's son in Love Actually. Yeah, that's all the same guy. Wow. I forgot about that. But yeah, they all went on to be really big stars. This is Keira, I think, really just flexing her powers here. This was right after Pirates of the Caribbean had started, and she's the first, person to play Lizzie on screen since the 1940s. And then she went straight from this movie back to another Pirates movie and then back to Joe Wright, and they worked together on one of my absolute favorite movies, Atonement, together.
I hate
They
that
brought
movie.
back pretty much the whole crew. Get out.
Listen,
well,
I have seen
it's been a good
movie.
episode. Thank you for listening.
I've seen that movie exactly one time, and it made me so angry. So incredibly angry. Little Saoirse Ronan.
Oh, see,
and I
fucking
was
Bryony. She's
done.
one of the most evil bitches in cinema history.
That green dress, though.
No, that's fair. She's the
Amazing.
worst.
The green
dress,
dress.
please. Woo! That green dress is my Roman Empire. Yeah, little Bryony, little fucking Saoirse Ronan. I already knew what was going to happen because I read that book in college. So I was already traumatized by Atonement. That was like, I think I was an English minor. So it was one of my Brit Lit classes. We read Atonement. I think it must have been for modern Brit Lit. We read that book and we were literally, I went to an all women's college. So imagine like 15 screaming teenage girls reading that book in class together.
I had to read it for high school.
Oh my God. Yeah. So you knew the twist too. I was fucking sick.
I was not
sick.
prepared.
I hate Bryony with my whole heart. If Bryony has no haters, I'm dead. But anyway, Joe Wright did this movie and then Atonement back to back with Keira Knightley. And just, man, he was unstoppable in this moment. Speaking of his direction, I don't think I mentioned when we were talking about the first proposal scene, how beautiful it is. The pouring rain, oh
whatever
my God.
that like gazebo mausoleum thing is. I don't know what that is, but it is so pretty.
The stonework, the pouring rain, the way they're just like dripping in each other's faces, and he's being such a prick to her, but he's still so gorgeous. You're like, I hate you, but you're so hot. Man, oh man, Joe Wright was in his bag in this era. Oh, he's a great
So
director.
good.
Yeah, so I talked about the Matthew McFadden performance and just the passion he brought to the role, and I feel like he really modernized it as well, but not in like a I have iPhone face kind of way, but
Mhm.
in like an authentic, I'm just a little bit more of a evolved man kind of way. But also for another performance I loved, our king, our fallen soldier, Donald Sutherland. Um, he is magnificent in this movie. I love his scenes with Keira Knightley. I think he brought such like a love and a warmth to this role, and I don't know if he was like this. Was his character like this in the book, Anna?
He's much closer to Lizzie in the book than the other girls. Like, she's the only daughter that he sees as being serious and not frivolous. Um, so like
Ah.
that scene at the end where he's like, if there were anyone worthy of you, like I could not have let anyone less worthy of you. That's very much how he feels. And like the fact that he tells her that if she marries Mr. Collins, he will not talk to her. Like that is straight from the book too.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask about that. I love that scene. He ate Mrs. Bennet up.
Yes. He does a total 180. She does not. She's not prepared for that, and he does it.
Yeah. Well, she was fucking wrong, and she
She
should know
was so
better.
wrong.
Cause how you gonna marry? She was so wrong for that.
But that's the thing is like Lizzie is Mr. Bennet's favorite, and Lizzie is Mrs. Bennet's least favorite because she doesn't
Oh,
get her.
100%. Yeah. Her mom is like her biggest hater.
Mm-hmm. After after Lady Catherine de Bourgh.
After, yeah, you're right. After Lady Catherine. Actually, it's Lady Catherine, then it's Caroline,
Then
then it's
it's
her
Mrs.
mother.
Bennet.
Those are Lizzie's biggest haters.
Yes.
Just always plotting on her downfall. And what were your favorite performances, Anna?
I don't think that Keira Knightley can be overstated. She is so dynamic as Lizzie. You can see that she is not
Yes.
perfect. You know, that she is kind of um she's a little quick to her judgments, but you still love her and you still want her to succeed. Um and then I also have Dame Judi Dench because she is so funny. Her comedic timing is perfection. Like even that first you get that first glimpse of her and she's just like sitting in the parlor and she won't even deign to turn her head to look at the people
She
who
won't
are
even look at her.
entering the
Oh,
room. Like what a flex. And she is just oh, she's such a villain, but she's delicious at it, and I love her.
yeah, she's very cunty, very diva. Speaking of Keira Knightley being so dynamic in this role and such a strong lead, she was only 19 at the time.
Oh my
Wow.
god. That's
She
insane.
was a teenager when she made this. I know. Because she was 17 when she made the first Pirates movie. So, yeah, she was 19, I believe, when she made this. It's fucking insane how much power and grace and strength she had as a teenage girl. She was in her bag.
That's
Because she's only
amazing.
39 now. Yeah.
That is
She's
not what
still
I
in her
looked like
30s
when I was
now.
19. That's crazy.
I'm saying, I had braces when I was 19. I went to college with braces, and this bitch is making Pride and Prejudice. We are built different. Keira is really that girl.
Every time we get the new draft class of Packers, I'm like, oh, that 22-year-old is making $17 million. And I am, much older and not.
Oh, Yeah, it's painful. It's painful. I'm getting to that age finally, where a lot of the up and coming celebrities, I'm old enough to be their mother. So that's fun.
It's
That's
delightful.
that's been interesting. Mm. Just love that for me. I'm like, oh, they're how old? Oh, okay, yeah. I graduated college that year. Yeah, perfect. Cool. Um, it's a good time. Um, so some other aspects of this movie that we really loved. I wanted to get into a few of the technical aspects. I already spoke about how I feel about Joe Wright's direction. I think he directed the shit out of this version. The lush meadows, the wide shots of all of the castles and manors, the horse scenes, just the ballroom. The way that man shoots a ballroom, exquisite. He brought such energy and liveliness to what could be very boring, very stuffy, very traditional kind of scenes, you know? He just made them so lush. Like you just want to be there with those people. You feel like you are there with them.
Especially too, we didn't really talk about it, but he shoots these scenes of the family like from outside looking through the windows, and you like follow a maid as she sings, and you get to see like all the different rooms of people and like what they're talking about, their private conversations, just like little snippets. And it reminds me a lot of like
Yes.
reading
The
the
way he
book,
follows characters.
where you're like, okay, I'm just getting like this peek into their lives. It very much reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And on top of the direction, I have to shout out this soundtrack. Holy shit. Holy shit, the
Hmm.
music in this movie is incredible. And that was composed by Dario Marinelli, who also did the music for Atonement. Um,
Mm.
he you can hear it, right? It's that very big piano forward, lots of it's just so beautiful. I feel like it fits the time period so well, and it's like dramatic without being over the top, but it's very impactful. I love the soundtrack. I get chills when I listen to it.
I have a lot of this music on because I have like an instrumental playlist that I very frequently play in my classroom or like that I listen to while I'm reading. And this entire soundtrack is on
Hmm.
there. It's one of my favorite. I have this like sheet music to play on the piano, and it's some of my favorites. It's so dreamy.
Oh, you play
Like,
piano?
not well anymore, but on occasion. I played for like most of my childhood through college, but it's just so dreamy
Nice.
and beautiful and like wistful. Um
Wistful.
Especially
That's a really good word.
like the pauses, the very intentional, you had mentioned yearning at the top of the pod. That is perfectly
Hmm.
encapsulated in the score. And the quickening of like the drama and the love and the emotions, it's all right there.
Pauses feel like you're taking a deep breath
Mhm.
with the characters and with the story. It's like a like a it's like a release of the tension. So for the emotional impact of this movie, like I said, I've only seen it twice, but this was like an instant classic for me. I know I'm gonna end up like you, Anna, where I'm just watching this shit over and over and over again.
We're already in the
I can
like
feel
sending
it.
each
I
other reels of it stage.
reels about it. Yeah. Sees Pride and Prejudice one time. I'm like, I should get a really long coat, shouldn't I?
I'm gonna get some pearls for my hair.
What if I just put a white blouse under this? Yeah. Oh my god. I want Lizzie's and Darcy's wardrobe, and I feel like that encapsulates the bisexual experience.
Hmm.
um there's also something so attractive to me about a man who can move in silence like Mr. Darcy does. how he's secretly very, very kind and protective of not only Lizzie, but of her sisters as well. And like you said, Anna, his staff, the way they revere him, the way his sister loves him so deeply, and you can tell he's just like a big, not teddy bear, but he's very comforting and protective to the people in his life, and he's a very like stable, solid kind of guy, and I just think that is so hot. So hot. And he's a fixer too. He goes behind the scene and fixes things with Jane and Bingley. He helps Lydia with her marriage to that asshole. And then he doesn't even tell Lizzie that he's doing all this stuff to like help her sisters. And I think that's what really makes her fall for him, because I know that shit would work on me too. Like treating me whatever, that's great. But if you got my sister, if you treat my sister good and you take care of my mom and my family good, like that, oh my god, it's so attractive. It really turned me around on him when I realized how protective and how kind he was.
Speaking of Lydia and Wickham, we haven't talked about them a whole lot, but in the book, it goes
Oh
on
my
to talk
God.
about like how their
I hate
marriage was
Wickham.
not very happy and how they were like constantly hitting up the Bingleys and the Darcys for money and like overstaying their welcome
Ooh.
at their different estates. Like it was
Well,
very
yeah, wasn't Wickham broke because didn't he steal all that money from like Darcy's father and then immediately gambled it all? So he was always a broke bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
And then he tried to marry Georgiana.
He was the worst.
He tried to get Georgiana to
elope
so that he could get her fortune, and then once he found out he wasn't going to get any of it, he dumped her.
He ghosted her.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a
he
piece of
sucks.
garbage. I can't stand Wickham. God, he's such a loser. What about you, Lindsay?
I am so curious about the dad, about Mr. Bennet. I think like who he is really shapes a lot of the sisters', I guess, pursuit of love. Like I'm curious if they didn't have him as a representation of who they should be finding in a man. Like I think it almost makes them a little bit naive to love, I think.
Because he's such a good man and he wants that for his daughters so badly.
Yeah.
And because they have him in their lives,
he's not like overly
he's
romantic
like the
with
ideal
Mrs. Bennet. Like he's a really good dad, but he's like not in love with Mrs. Bennet. He's like kind of sick of her shit.
Well, she's annoying.
Her nerves.
She's also very annoying. She's lovable.
It almost feels like sometimes though men, they can either be a really good dad or they can be a really good husband. But it's like
but not
impossible
both
for them to be both.
Ooh, clock it. You about to piss off some men in these comments, but I support it.
I'm gonna disagree just because I think my dad is a really good dad and a really good husband. My husband, we're not having kids, so we're not gonna find out, but I'm sure he'd be great. We're just gonna pass that right by, but I see what you mean though, because
I love a dink.
We do what we can. I see what you mean though, this idea that like he allows them because of like who he is to think about love instead of just station.
Yes, and I feel like, I mean, I know it's because she's a woman and she's being practical, but I feel like their mother was so much too focused on the station part of it and not the love part of it. So I thought he was a great counterpart to her. They are a solid couple together, but you're right. It's not like in a super romantic way, but he's a solid dude. I wouldn't hate being married to him or anything, but he is an exceptional father. Great dad. Great girl dad.
I would probably annoy him if I were his wife. I give off Mrs. Bennet energy.
That's very honest. That's very big of you to admit that. That's very real of you. You're like, you know what? I probably would be annoying.
I'm sorry, Lindsay. I interrupted you.
I loved him though.
Mm-hmm. He has really strong values, and I feel like he lets them all have their own personalities, their own interests, their own romances, and he's not forceful about it. But he does, I think, really invite just critical thinking. And for Lizzie especially, he's like, think about it. Like, what do you want? What do you want out of your life? And I'm here to support you no matter what. And I don't want you to just do something because you feel like you have to, or because we need money. Like, I don't want you to live your life like that. I want you to fall in love. I want you to be, as a woman in this society, as free as you can be. And I really think that impacted the way she saw Darcy. I feel like beneath the surface, Darcy and Mr. Bennet have a lot in common. And I think Lizzie sees some of her father's traits in Mr. Darcy, and she's like, oh, he's a provider. Like, he's a real solid dude.
That's something I think about all the time. Like, are we genuinely like admiring this person out of like love and connection, or is it just familiar to us?
Ooh, there has.
That's a deep one.
Ooh, Lindsay. Ay. We always end up talking about fathers.
Not
Fathers
even just
on this
fathers
show.
in general, but anything.
Yeah. Is it familiar, or do I actually?
Like, is it just what we know?
I do not want to think about that. So, wow. Lindsay always gets philosophical and like really starts hurting my feelings towards the end of these. I'm like, why would you say
like
that?
it.
Now I'm gonna be. I know it's great. She's a deep thinker. It's just something I'm gonna be thinking about forever now.
I mean, if Mr. Bennet hadn't have, been the voice for Lizzie, she very well could have been married to, what's his name? Is it Colin?
Collins, yeah.
Yeah, Collins.
Mm-hmm.
Yuck.
Mr. Collins.
Yeah, absolutely.
No one would suspect that his
not the worst.
manners are rehearsed.
Yo, she ate him up.
He didn't have a clue.
She was throwing heat his way. Just zinger after zinger. So what else that we haven't discussed yet resonated with you, Anna?
You shouted out earlier what you think when someone says this is one of their favorite movies, and you mentioned a romantic, and I am a romantic. Okay, I grew up on One Tree Hill and Veronica Mars and The Grand Gesture. And I just, what I find that I appreciate as I get a little bit older is and I feel like I'm a broken record saying it again, but like the fact that Lizzie and Darcy were able to grow together to become better, and not in a way that you're like changing yourself for someone, like you're changing who you are to fit what someone wants. It's more like, oh, this is an actual flaw that I have, and I can be a better person if I heed this person's advice and criticism. Could they have gone about it in a gentler way? Yes. But
absolutely.
They're not like changing to try and fit each other's lives. It's more like they just genuinely become better people together. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. That's so deep. That's like I think that's a mark of a true love, is when you grow together and not apart, but together alongside each other, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they bring out the best in each other.
They
They
do.
also bring out
teamwork.
the best. Exactly. Oh, I'm big on that.
Love is
I'm big
teamwork.
on like teamwork, partners in crime. Yeah, that whole thing. Like you better be at my side, like in lockstep with me at all times, or else I can't have it. Was there anything else that impacted you, Lindsay?
I really loved the Charlotte and Lizzie's friendship.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
it was so real, and probably the one friendship that is really relatable today. Like, they were so joking with each other, but so, like, understanding.
Yeah, very playful, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think there was like a deep respect there. Like I love after the whole Colin's marriage happens, Lizzie just accepts her. She still loves her. It's still her friend. She's like, "Hey, I get it. You did what you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're still cool. Like I'll come visit you at your house." Like she doesn't hold anything against Charlotte. She gets it. They're like they're they're real, like just real friends,
Mhm.
I love at the first
and they
ball
accept
when
each
they like
other.
overhear the insult, the barely tolerable insult, and like Lizzie is obviously kind of like hurt by it. And Charlotte's like, "Hey,
Hmm.
if he liked you, then you'd have to talk to him, and then you'd have to dance with him." And it's so real. Like everybody has that friend who like you're like a little upset, and they're like,
Oh yeah.
"Listen, if they actually liked you, you'd have to talk to them." And it's like, "Oh yes, right."
I think I'm that friend. I'm like, get real. He sucks. We all need a Charlotte in our life. So like the feeling that this movie gives me about love and romance, it's one of the few movies that genuinely makes me feel optimistic about it. I feel like a lot I feel
Sorry.
it's okay that I just looked up and saw her face like right there. We're almost done, Musha. We have like 10 more
She's
minutes, I
getting so
promise.
antsy.
I know.
Okay, she's settling.
Aw. Meanwhile, Max is knocked the fuck out. Um, so just some final takes on the love and romance aspect of this. I feel like this is a lover girl movie. This is an optimistic kind of viewpoint of love and romance, and it's for once not the type of movie where someone has to die, or there's no war, there's nothing super dramatic and life and death about what's happening, but it still matters. And it still leaves you with that feeling of like, wow, they really found their way to each other and made each other better. And I just think it's such a great story. What about you, Anna?
This, like I mentioned at the top, the humor in this movie I think is great. And really, this movie just always makes me feel so happy. That's why it was my COVID movie. This is like every year my husband throws a big party on the 4th of July, and it stresses me out. I can't Irish goodbye at my own home. So like there's
My
just so much
nerves.
I can do. My foot nerves. But I usually end the night watching this movie in bed because like this is why I was so upset when they took it off streaming, because I was like, no. And, but it just the whole 2 hours I've got a smile on my face, and it's just like a warm hug. I just love this. It makes me so happy.
Absolutely. What about you, Lindsay?
Well, would you say unconditional love is a good descriptor for Lizzie and Darcy?
I'm not sure. I don't know if it I don't know if it was conditional, but it was definitely not easy. It wasn't an easy love. at first. They went through a lot of misunderstanding and calibrating and recalibrating and back and forth before they really dialed in together. I don't know if I would say unconditional. I would say more so it was flexible. It was evolving. Their relationship evolved.
It's definitely not conditional, but I feel like it's unconditional, but I'm still going to call you on your shit.
Yes. Which I
Like,
love.
I'm not just going to stand by you no matter what. I'm going to love you and I'm going to support you, but if you're doing something I think is dumb, I'm also going to tell you.
Exactly. Yeah. Which again is like practical and long lasting. Like that's a great foundation for their marriage. Oh, I meant to ask, have either of you seen other versions of this? Lindsay, have you seen any other version besides the Austen land?
No, I'm only gonna recommend Austen land. Which, when I was looking it up, it was directed by a woman, and she is married to Jared Hess, who directed.
Oh, okay. Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, I just thought that was really funny.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So Anna, I know you have read the novel. Have you seen any other version of this story?
I would recommend the book. I've never made it all the way through the miniseries. I just don't find it quite as charming as this one. Although it is, more loyal to the source material because there's more time.
Yeah.
But I would like
It's long, right? Wasn't it like a 5-night thing?
Yeah, it's several episodes. But I would say like there are other period movies that would work. I know you're gonna recommend a different one, but I would say like both versions of Little Women, the most two recent. I really love the the Greta Gerwig and the Christian Bale Winona Ryder version. I feel like if you're going for this vibe, Bridgerton is like a more modern version of this. Like it's still set in that era, but it's a little bit more modernized, a little bit more spicy. It's not it's not scandalous that they kiss.
They kissed. That's not in the novel. I would also co-sign Bridgerton with the caveat of season 1 and 2 only, because we are not Pollen supporters.
What?
I said what I said. I don't like Pollen. I don't think I hate Colin. He can go to hell.
I don't really like the first. Well, I don't like. I think the stuff with Daphne and like forcing.
Yeah, that's tough.
In the first season, forcing him to.
Yeah, that's not great.
Her, but I did not like that.
Rough, super rough.
I did not like that either.
So my favorite season is definitely season 2. I
like season 2.
Kate and Anthony all the way. Woo!
But I love.
You want to talk enemies to lovers? God damn.
Nicole.
Oh, I love her. It's not her. She's amazing. It's Colin. I hate Colin.
It felt very empowering to see a woman that was not a size 0 in a romantic situation.
No, 100% agree. I just wish it was a better romantic interest, because Colin is the fucking worst, and I feel like he's a lot less redeemable than. I mean,
I feel like this warrants a longer conversation.
Yeah, for sure. It does. Fuck Colin. Anyway, I'm gonna recommend Greta Gerwig's version of Little Women, the 2019. I know I've talked about it a million times. Guess what? I'm gonna keep talking about it probably until we do an episode about it, which we definitely will. And Martin Scorsese's Age of Innocence. Woo! That have either of you seen Age of Innocence?
No.
I've read Age of Innocence. I have not seen it.
Ooh, okay. I highly, highly recommend this. This is one of my favorite Martin Scorsese movies by a long shot, and it's one of his more underrated ones. It's one of his lesser known ones, but in the early 90s, he did a period piece. I think it's 19th century New York, and it's Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Winona Ryder in a love triangle. It's so beautiful, and it's a great cast, and it's not something that Martin Scorsese does a lot, but when he did do it, he did it really well, and I think it's one of the least terrifying Daniel Day-Lewis performances. He's a normal, like, romantic, kind of sensitive guy in Age of Innocence, so definitely would recommend that one. Also, Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility. Have either of you seen that one?
Is that the Kate Winslet, Emma Thompson, Professor Snape?
Yeah.
Is it-
Not Professor Snape.
Isn't that right? Isn't Alan Rickman in it?
I'm pretty sure he is. I'm looking it up right now to be sure.
There's
It's
she has a really bad wig. Kate
1995.
Winslet has like a terrible wig.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's
Then I have
Kate
seen it.
Winslet's terrible wig. Yeah, that's the right one. The 1995 one. It's Hugh Grant, Kate Winslet, Alan Rickman, and Emma Thompson in that one. And
wow.
another, great cast. Another like
good.
steamy period romance. Highly recommend that one. And Lindsay, do you want to tell us where we can find this movie?
For free? Nowhere.
Yeah.
I had to rent it.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
Lindsay had to buy it. I have it on DVD. So I watched my DVD copy of it. I don't even have it on like a nice format, but I do have a physical copy of this, and thankfully I did because I don't want to buy that.
My DVD skips. So I finally caved and just bought the digital one on Amazon because I watch it enough and I figure it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of Apocalypse, I should probably have a new DVD copy.
Oh my god, can you imagine? Can you imagine if there was an apocalypse tomorrow and we only had what we have now?
I think I'd feel pretty good about it. I'd feel
You
pretty
just
good
find
about
me
where my
reading the
physical
book out
collection is
loud.
at. I don't Yeah. I don't have everything I want, but I have I haven't told you, Lindsay. I've bought probably like 20 movies over the last year on disc, so I'm feeling a lot better about my collection now, and a lot of Criterion 4Ks and Blu-rays have been added to my media collection, so I feel better about it. I can also you just reminded me, I can also link in the show notes a list of everything I currently own on disc, and this movie is one of them. Thank everybody for listening. Thank you, Anna, for being our first guest. I hope it wasn't too painful of an experience. I know we're new at
No.
this, but
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
can't wait to have you back. You're definitely coming back.
I was gonna say, can I have Little Women?
Ooh, yeah. Little Women, that's gonna be Little Women's tough because we've already promised Kate Little Women.
Okay.
But then I also was
What
then I
if
was
we did
also
the older version? We could do both of them.
Oh my god, do you want to do the 94 Little Women?
Twist my arm.
If I must. That's a good
Yes.
idea, Lindsay. Yeah, we can do both version. It's our podcast. Who's going to tell us no?
Right?
And I'm really excited to come on your show for the musical season and do the 2 that I'm scheduled to do. I can't wait.
You're the first episode of season 6, so.
Oh, me? Oh, a premiere? I love a premiere.
We'll have to dress up in our best Dream
love
Girls
that.
attire.
It's gonna be Dreamgirls?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes. Breaking
gosh.
news. It's going to be Dreamgirls for my first appearance. The second one's a secret, but
I love
yeah.
Dreamgirls.
Me
We
too.
are dream girls.
We will get into it. Loved it. So for our next
Sorry.
one night only.
Have you guys seen the video of the little boy in the shower singing with the wig on?
No.
And
No.
it's amazing. Okay.
Which
I'll have to
song is he
find it.
doing? Because I know,
like the main one.
because I know on oh, You're Gonna Love Me.
I don't know, the
Oh.
one
Or
where like the you know, we are dream girls.
oh, that
one.
song.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's so funny,
Mm-mm.
but it's also amazing because he's like a fantastic singer. I'll have to
Aw.
find it.
Yeah, please find that. I want to see that. So we're gonna have another guest on for our next episode. Another film fan girly that I met on Instagram. Her name is Chris Cinema, and she has gained a lot of notoriety on Instagram recently. She does all day movie stays. I know I sent you one of the videos, Lindsay, but she basically will go into like an AMC right at like 9 a.m. and just watch like 7, 8 movies in a row, bring all her food, her blankets. Like she'll be there until like 10, 11 o'clock at night and just binges movies. And then she started uploading the footage and posting it to Instagram. And I came across her account and I was like, wow, I have never met someone who outmatched my freak when it came to being at a movie theater all day. I was like, girl, you got me beat. But she's agreed to come on and I'm really excited. So she requested Cheetah Girls for her episode, which I'm so embarrassed I've never seen.
I'm so
I've never
happy
seen it either.
for you.
Yeah,
Oh,
I feel like that's a Gen
wow.
Z thing. I think we're too old,
Wow.
Anna. So yeah, we're gonna do a fun, lighthearted movie for our next one. We're gonna do a Disney Channel original.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So next episode is gonna be on Cheetah Girls with Chris Cinema. Thank everybody for listening. Please make sure to follow Anna's podcast, Stone's Top Tens. You're on Spotify, correct?
On Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you can find your pods, and also on Instagram.
Perfect. Yes. Please follow Stone's Top Tens on Instagram as well. Follow us on Instagram as well. We are Post Film Clarity Pod on Instagram, TikTok, for however long we have TikTok left, and YouTube. That's Post Film Clarity Pod, all one word. And then we are also on Letterboxd at Post Film Clarity, all one word. And if you want to reach out to us via email, that is postfilmclaritypod@gmail.com. And I've also started putting all of that information in our show notes. So if you want to click through this episode, if you're on Spotify, that link will bring you right to all of our socials, and I can link your pod in there as well, Anna.
Awesome, thanks.
As a little, yeah, of course, as a little thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
That's it for us. Bye, honeys.